What's going on, guys? JV here, and today I'm going to have some more Cleveland Browns football talk for you. Of course, I know, but it's game week. My blood's pumping. I'm excited. Tail's wagging. I'm ready. I just can't wait. But before I get to the video, I do want to talk about two things real quick. One, as you can see, the name of the channel changed. It was Cleveland Sports TV, which is what I created 2 years ago when I started dabbling into YouTube before I stopped for, other reasons. But I wanted to change it to JV from CLE because I didn't want me to just be Cleveland sports based and that's it. Yes, I'm going to talk about a lot of Cleveland sports related topics, Browns related, Indians, Cavs, but I do want to be able to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. I want to be able to talk about big events nationwide, signings, trades, just sports in general. So you're going to see a lot of sports talk from me. Yes, we will talk about our Cleveland sports. Will I be biased? Of course, it's in my blood. I'm a Clevelander, but I didn't want to just narrow it down to just Cleveland sports. I thought the opportunities were much larger with the name change. So that's me, JV from CLE. I didn't want that to rhyme as much as it did. Sorry. But I hope you guys do enjoy the content I'm going to have pushing forward. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, if you like what you see, subscribe if you want to see any, sort of sports talk, Cleveland sports talk, whatever it may be, sports in general. I'd appreciate it. So let's go on this ride together, I guess, and see where it goes. But let's get into the video. We're going to talk Cleveland Browns depth chart, what I like, what I don't like, where things are going, positions that will surprise us, players that will surprise us, whatever it may be. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so as you can see, we have the Cleveland Browns depth chart here from the clevelandbrowns.com website. We're going to just go over it, talk about some things we like, and yeah, go from there. So we'll start with the QB position. We have, obviously, Baker Mayfield, QB1, 6. I like to call him 6. Nothing new to us there. We knew that. So let's move on to the backup QB, Case Keenum. Here's a guy I love, a signing that I love, the signing that still hasn't gotten enough credit. Knows the Stefanski offense, veteran in the league, played in big games, has won some big games. Just an absolute overall good signing, and I love it because Baker Mayfield's going to be able to pick his brain, learn some things from him, and whether it's on the field, off the field, and I just think it's a match that is going to work out great. So, great sign, Case Keenum. Love him. Love that he's our backup. Gives us some depth at that position. If anything were to happen, God forbid, to Baker, I 100% trust Case Keenum, coming in and getting the job done. Let's move on to the offensive line. Our starters, we have J.C. Treader, Pro Bowler, veteran in the league, awesome player, no worries there. Joe Bitonio at the left guard spot, love him, Pro Bowler, no worries there. And then we got Wyatt Teller at right guard. Big year for Wyatt Teller. We had a question mark coming into the season about right guard. Who was it going to be? There was rumblings about a few different people. And yeah, he came out to be the guy who won the job. So I think it'll be easier on him than people think surrounding, he's surrounded by Jay Coughlin, Pro Bowler, great player in this league, huge free agent offseason signing for us, and J.C. Treader. So being surrounded by those two guys is going to help. I also think the addition of Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, is going to help. And I think the offensive scheme Stefanski's going to provide, and not the absolute mess that Freddie Kitchens had, is going to help. And I think he's set up for success. I think Wyatt Teller's going to have an okay year. And yeah, I'm not terrified about it. Not really worried, but I think because of where he's at and who he's surrounded by, he'll be just fine. Let's move on to the tackle position. Left tackle, just got done talking about it. Jay Coughlin. Left tackle. Right tackle, just got done talking about it. Jay Coughlin, huge offseason signing. Coming over from Tennessee. Derrick Henry had a huge year last year. Also the year before. He's been a huge part to that zone run, successful running game over in Tennessee. So super excited about the right tackle spot. Jay Coughlin's going to be the guy here for a few years. I think fans are going to fall in love for him because he actually is a pretty decent all-around guy. You could tell from his interviews. He's just a guy that I think Cleveland's going to love. So I'm going to love, to see how that plays out. Let's move on to left tackle. We got Jedrick Wills, rookie from Alabama. This is the only spot on the offensive line that I am kind of worried about, He played right tackle all the way up through the system in Alabama's never really played the left tackle position. I think we all know he's athletic enough to do so. Big athletic body. I think everybody knows someday he's going to be a good left tackle in this league, but how soon will that be? He hasn't gone up against any defenses yet in the entire offseason outside of the Browns defense, obviously in camp and such. So I'm a little worried that he hasn't gone up against other schemes. He hasn't been able to practice against a ton of players. And he hasn't really seen live 100% game speed yet. So I'm a little bit worried about Jedrick moving into the season. But come week 8, 9, 10, and onward, once he starts to get his feet under him, I think he'll be just fine. But I'm going to be worried early on with him. Let's move on to the skill position players. Everybody loves the skill position players. Wide receiver 1, Odell Beckham Jr., who I think is primed for a absolute breakout season. The Stefanski scheme, the Stefanski offense is really just a 2-3 wide receiver set. You'll never really see 4 or 5 receivers plus unless something crazy is going on. But the zone run game, the play action that's going to open up from the zone run because of Chubb and Hunt is just going to give these receivers, I think, unlimited one-on-one targets throughout the year. And I think Odell Beckham is going to take advantage of those and absolutely baptize DBs this year because of the one-on-one coverages. Opposite of him, we got Jarvis Landry. Not a lot of people know this, but last year, Jarvis finished top 10 in receiving yards and receptions, I'm pretty sure. If not receiving yards, he was pretty close, but top 10 in both categories. Jarvis had a great year last year. We already know him and Baker have a tremendous cohesion, so I'm not worried about the receiver positions at all. I actually think we see an upgrade this year as long as the offense is kind of rolling how we think it will as far as scheme goes and what Stefanski's going to bring to the table. Let's move on to wide receiver 3. I still think there's going to be a battle that plays out throughout the season between 3 guys for wide receiver 3. At first, I think Higgins is going to see the majority of the wide receiver 3 targets, but I've heard Kadero Hodge and Donovan Peoples-Jones have been right on his back as far as performance in camp. I've heard a lot of great things about Kadero Hodge, and he's not going anywhere because of how he plays on special teams. And I heard he's just been that guy who's kind of risen to the occasion during camp, which is a shock to me because I've seen him play here for a little bit now, and he's never really stood out. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he's going to end up being a guy that really, helps the team this season. And then you got Donovan Peoples-Jones, JoJo Natson. JoJo Natson's probably more times than not going to be a strictly special teams kind of guy, and a terrific one at that. You got kick return, punt return. He's probably going to do both. Might see a little Donovan Peoples-Jones there. But JoJo Natson, he'll see some receiver targets, I'm sure. He'll be put in some sets just because of his speed and the threat he gives you there. But for the most part, he'll be a return guy. Donovan Peoples-Jones, though, however, will see targets as the 4 receiver at times, maybe even the 3 guy. But he's a guy that I'm really, really excited about, and we'll talk more about that here in an upcoming video. But let's move on to the fullback because I don't want to forget it. Andy Janovich, another tremendous signing by this team in the offseason. This was one of the first guys you could tell Stefanski handpicked when he came to Cleveland because he was signed, and shortly after, I'm pretty sure, Stefanski was signed. He became the head coach. Shortly after, I want to say within like 72 hours, Andy Janovich was picked up. And I know there's a lot of people on this team who are excited about Andy Janovich. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt included, because they've never really ran with a fullback in this offense, and or as being Cleveland Browns. And I think they're really going to benefit from that. We'll get to that when I talk about the running backs, though. But yeah, Andy Janovich, terrific offseason signing, and I'm so excited that this offense is finally going to have a fullback. Thank you, Lord. But yeah, let's talk about the running backs. So obviously Kareem Hunt. Actually, I don't even see running back on here. What's going on? Halfback. I see fullback. I think they forgot to put halfback on here. They did. That's funny. Well, halfback, it's going to be Kareem Hunt, and it's going to be Nick Chubb. We already know how that's going to go. They're going to be the 1-2 combo for many years to come. Obviously, they just signed Kareem Hunt to a extension, 2-year extension, so he'll be here for the next 3 years. And as long as they franchise tag Nick Chubb in that last season, which I'm sure they will, he'll be here for the next 3 years. So we're looking at a 2-headed monster in Cleveland for the next 3 years with Chubb and Hunt. And I'm very excited about that. Overall, I think this offense has the chance to boom as long as everything goes correctly with that offensive line. I'm not worried about anything other than the offensive line because I think Stefanski and this scheme that he has, which really isn't hard to digest, Baker Mayfield has even gone over that, as long as the offensive line is okay, I think Stefanski puts these guys in a position to be nothing but successful. But we'll see how that plays out because we've been duped before. Let's move on to the defense. So we'll start with the defensive line. We'll start at the end positions. We got Myles Garrett at left end. We got Olivier Vernon at right end. I think we all knew that coming into camp. I didn't think we were going to see any major changes unless the Browns signed a guy like Clowney or Griffin or whatever it may be. But Vernon's here. He's going to be the guy. Hopefully he can earn his money this year because last year was not very impressive. Then you have Myles Garrett, who we know how that's going to go. He's going to be one of the best in the league. I want to see him on the field for 16 weeks this year in meaningful football games, and I think he could win Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's capable of doing so, but that's on him. As long as we don't have any more hiccups, which I don't see happening. The backup spots, we have Adrian Claiborne and Porter Gustin, yeah. Adrian Claiborne, veteran coming over from the Cowboys? Atlanta? And we're going to have to find out, chat. We're going to have to figure this out. I want to say Cowboys, but I can't move on because it's going to bug me. With the Falcons. All right, I'm pretty sure I said Falcons when I said the Cowboys, but I was definitely leaning. I was leaning Cowboys. So, yeah, you have Adrian Claiborne, terrific veteran, guy who's going to add terrific depth to the lineup. He's a guy who's actually pretty sure made a Pro Bowl or two in his career. Awesome sign. He's a guy who's going to come in and give you depth. He's not going to miss a beat. He's going to be able to rotate in on that defensive line and play in a high level. Porter Gustin, don't know much about him. I do know he shined a little bit at camp. It's a guy that the coaching staff likes a lot. I think they were able to get rid of a couple guys who we thought we would see this year because of him. I just know he wore number 97, and he showed out a lot. Then we got Jordan Elliott, Vincent Taylor, Jordan Elliott, rookie draft pick, who everybody is so high on. They think this guy could have been one of the steals in that draft as far as interior linemen go. Vincent Taylor, just going to be a guy really used for depth. He's not going to be a guy you're going to hear too much of. I would be surprised if he even finished the season on the roster, to be honest. But we'll see. Crazier things have happened. Let's move over to the linebacker spots. We got the middle linebacker, B.J. Goodson. He's the guy who won the job. He's a guy that when we signed him, I thought he was going to be used more for depth, but with how things have kind of played out at that linebacker spot, he's going to end up being the guy. Linebacker is a position I'm worried about in general. There's not, many names I love here. There's names I like, but not love. I think we're going to miss Joe Schobert this year. But you got, B.J. Goodson and Tay Davis. Tay Davis, a terrific special teamer. He's a guy who just shines on special teams, so he was going to make the roster no matter what. Those are the two middle linebackers. You got the left and right outside linebackers. You got Mack Wilson and Taki, two of the rookies from last year, two guys who I do see a future with this team. It's just how soon. Mack Wilson's going to start the season off on the injured list. I'm not sure how quick he'll be back. There is speculation that he'll be back sooner than we thought, maybe week 3-4. We'll see. Then we got Sione Taki. Just a guy I'm in love with, but I don't know if he's ready. He's a guy who's all over the field. He's a maniac. He wants to play football. He's a guy you want on your team. I'm just a little bit worried about how he'll be in coverage in spots where I think he's not very comfortable yet. But he is a guy that I definitely want on my team and a guy who we'll hear a lot about this year because, he's a guy who's going to play an important role because he's got a starting spot. So I'm worried about Taki, but I love him. So I want to see that play out good. Malcolm Jenkins is a guy that we got later in the offseason, actually won a Super Bowl MVP. Not many people will remember that with the Seahawks. Hasn't played in a couple years because of injuries. I think he's maybe had 40 tackles in the last 4 years combined due to injuries, but 9-year veteran. He could end up being a really nice piece if he could stay healthy and if he's there health-wise. And then Jacob Phillips, the rookie linebacker from LSU, who's going to have a chance early with Mack Wilson going down. He's a guy who could really, 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 really rise to the occasion and play well for us. I'm actually, he's one of the guys I'm most excited to watch because I think his potential is through the roof. He's a guy who led the SEC in tackles. He's just a tackling machine, a guy that I think it needs to be on this field early on, especially week 1 in Baltimore because that run game is going to be nuts. I think he's a guy that can help you early on, but he's a guy that's going to kind of have to develop, get his feet under him, and learn quickly because we had no training camp. So these rookies are definitely playing from a little bit from behind, but I think they'll be okay. They're just going to have to get some reps. Let's move on to the cornerback position. Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, as long as everything injury-wise is okay. I trust those two guys. Terrence Mitchell, Kevin Johnson, both very serviceable guys. Those two guys there who are going to be playing backup roles, nickel, dime packages. Those two guys there are guys who would start on many teams in this league. Kevin Johnson is a guy who I think will end up being a starter before the season is over with. I think he takes over for Greedy, and Greedy is just more of a situational / third, fourth down kind of guy. But everything I've heard about Kevin Johnson is he has been absolutely lights out. He's a guy that's going to be on the field, whether he takes over for Greedy or not. He's going to be a guy that stays on the field and is on the field often. And he's a name we'll hear a lot of this year, I'm sure. Terrence Mitchell, Money Mitch, a guy who's back. We know what we're getting out of him. Very serviceable, very good player. Love to have him. Good for depth. Say everything you can because he's a very good player to have as maybe your third or fourth corner. Then you got MJ Stewart and Tavir Thomas. Not two guys I really don't know much about. A couple of guys from the cornerback position that got cut were very shocking. So obviously these guys can play. Hopefully we'll see what they got. Hopefully we don't have to see them rise to the occasion too soon because if they do, it's because of injury depth, injury concerns, because we are deep at corner, believe it or not. So let's move on to the safety. Strong safety. We have Carl Joseph, Ronnie Harrison Jr. Ronnie Harrison Jr., a guy who we just picked up for a 5th-round pick from Jacksonville. A guy who everybody around the league was like, what is Jacksonville doing? A 5th rounder? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's got first, second, third round, kind of talent, and he's superb in the passing game. So he's going to be on the field a lot, especially in nickel packages and such. Carl Joseph coming over from Oakland, a guy who dealt with, a little bit of injury issues early on in his career, but played really well, recently. And he's a guy that the Cleveland Browns picked up and who they think they got a steal out of. He's on a 1-year deal, but general manager, Andrew Berry has already come out and said it's on him. If he performs, we would love for him to be a part of the organization. So a big year for Carl Joseph. If he can put on a show and put out and get things done, he's a guy who I can see here for an extended period of time. Let's move over to free safety. We have Andrew Sendejo, was with Stefanski in Minnesota, a guy who I love. He can play pretty much anywhere on the field. Free safety, strong safety, corner. He can move up into the box, play linebacker. He's a guy who Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator, is going to just love to mess around with. We'll call him the Swiss Army knife of the defense this year. And he's got something Cleveland about him. I know we don't know much about him now, especially because of COVID. We really didn't get the chance to see and watch much of the players, but he's a guy that fans are going to love. And then you got the backup to him. You got Sheldrick Redwine, rookie from last year, a guy who I have not given up on, a guy who has tremendous speed, tremendous pursuit, tremendous acceleration, a guy who could really develop into a serviceable, strong free safety in this league. So keep your eye out on him. I know we're a little deep that safety right now. We got 3 guys. We also have, Delpit, who we just drafted, but Redwine's a guy who I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon, and I still think he can make plays for this defense. Let's move on to special teams. Punter, we got Jamie Gillian, one of the best punters in all of football last year. Let's just face it. He's a guy who probably will play many, many, many years in the city of Cleveland, and he loves it. And he loves being a Clevelander, and I love Jamie Gillian. So if you ever see Jamie Gillian, you tell him I love him. The Scottish Hammer, going to be a Pro Bowler for many, 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 many years to come. He's already one of the best in the league. Not getting enough credit, but his credit is coming and his time is coming. Austin Seibert, rookie last year from Oklahoma, was with Baker. He's a guy who everybody's kind of been unsure about, and I think it's because we're so scared about what happens at the kicker, position. But I think he's a guy who we're going to have to trust because the coaching staff trusts him. This is his 2nd year here. He made big field goals for us last year. He's the guy. So let's learn to love him, and hopefully, us loving him will boost his confidence, and, maybe empty stadiums will help him too. Wink, wink. Let's move on to the kick and punt return position. It's JoJo Natson. He's the guy. He's going to be exciting. Kid's from Akron. He's been an exciting returner in this league for a few years now. It is what it is. I think we're going to love him. He's going to be a good one. He's going to be fun to watch. And then backing him up at each position, you got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I do think will see some returning. He'll get a lot of returning reps this year just because I think the Browns organization wants to find out ways to get him involved because he is a tremendous talent. And D'Ernest Johnson, who I don't expect to see too much of unless injuries were to happen. And then you got your long snapper, Charlie Hewlett. He's been here for, I think, 4 years now. I mean, he's a long snapper. All you got to do is snap the ball 30 yards. I could do it with a donut in my mouth. Probably not as good as you, but I could do it. If you want your kid to be really rich, literally give him carbs and teach him how to long snap. You got a career. I swear you could do it. But yeah, that's it. That's the depth chart. We really didn't have anything organized. We really just free rolled through it. I had fun with it. Let me get your guys' thoughts. Let me get what you guys think are, surprises, what you agreed with me on, what you disagreed with me on, but whatever it may be, man. Talk sports with me in the chat. I'll answer to every single comment. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notification bell if you want to be notified when I go live. And do not forget, go Dogs.